Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse. Yet another problem has been found with the big beautiful bill, and that is these newborn accounts, so-called, that are created. In these accounts, children are automatically enrolled in accounts where they are given money and the parents can't control any of it. Could this potentially be used to track everything that child ever buys? We'll talk about it today. Let's get started. So if you actually go to the government website and try and download or open up and read the text in its totality of this bill, you will get this message, like what I did. Effectively, opening this text up could crash your computer. Very comforting when you're thinking about all of the sitting members of the House of Representatives apparently reading this bill and then realizing, no, they didn't. Is it any wonder then that this craziness, the newborn accounts that we're seeing now, is one of the provisions that got passed? Now, let's be clear about this. This still has to go through the Senate and we have to get signed by the president. But what are these newborn accounts and why should we care about them? First off, every child in the United States under this account would be automatically enrolled based on their social security number and their birth record in this so-called savings plan. But this isn't really a savings plan per se. This is a money laundering plan where these parents are being forced to effectively pay with their tax dollars for this account nominally under their children's name that ultimately is money laundering all the way up to Wall Street. So this is approximately $1,000 per child, and the overall cost of this is going to be anywhere between $3 to $4 billion annually. So if you track this for the however many years that they're planning to do this, is quite a lot of money. And money is not free. Like, you're not getting free money. We, the taxpayers, are paying for this. Personally, I would rather have the $1,000 to keep myself on my tax bill or, have this in some other type of tax break. The bizarre thing about this fund is that it's kind of similar to a 529 account. It started to rain here. Apparently the heavens are speaking at this moment. This is kind of like a 529 account, but it's not. You don't have any control over it as the parent. This account is completely managed by the Treasury's lackeys. It's not well written. Nobody really understands what it is, but the Treasury has broad discretion as to which private firms get to manage this money. You can't touch it, by the way. You can't take this money out, for instance, if you're a family that falls on hard times or you haven't got a paycheck because your husband got laid off and you need to buy diapers or whatever. No, you can't touch this money. It ain't yours. It's Wall Street's money. But the sick thing is they're using your child as the bag in which to carry this money to Wall Street. So I've had to write this down because there's too many things swimming around there. And you know how it is when the government gets involved. Lawyers are going to be there, so they charge by the letter. So it's effectively, the initial funding here is $1,000 per child, taxpayer funded. The cost is annually $3.8 billion a year for approximately that many births. And then you're looking at a total of 15 and some odd billion over the course of the next 4 years. But the thing is about this, it is locked into a broad U.S. stock fund. So an S&P 500 fund, but it's managed by private firms under the guise of the Treasury. Let's get this straight. The Treasury is going to pick their buddies' equity firms to manage the money that's been taken from our tax dollars and then rubber stamped with our child's social security number so that they get it and get to send it off to whoever Vanguard or BlackRock says. Oh, but wait, there's more. You can continue funding this. You can put up to $5,000 a year extra in there. Keep in mind that you don't have any control over this. Some rando that the Treasury decides is going to run it and grease their buddies' elbows, they're going to take your money. The cool thing is that when you finally decide to withdraw this money, you get hit with capital gains. And if you try and use this money for anything other than their approved uses, you not only are going to pay tax on it, but you're going to pay a 10% penalty. So let me get this straight. The majority of Americans cannot write a check for $500. And yet we're going to take $1,000 from said taxpayers. We're going to lock it up away from them to where they can't use it for anything. And if they were to try and pull it out early, they get slapped with a penalty. And when they do eventually take it out, they get hit with capital gains. Who benefits from this? Wall Street. In a way, this is creating the same nexus that Social Security numbers did, but in reverse. Social Security numbers, of course, you can elect. You do not have to do this, but you can elect to receive a Social Security number for your child at their birth. You can send off for it, and then that number is used for various different things. However, in this case, this fund is automatically created. Like, there's no consenting or not consenting. If your Social Security number gets applied, you're getting this fund rubber stamped with your kid's name on it, whether you want it or not. And that $1,000 that, keep in mind, you are paying for in your tax bill, it's getting locked away way so Washington buddies can grease their friends' elbows at cocktail hour and say, yeah, Vanguard, yeah, BlackRock, yeah, whoever it is that needs the money right now, needs the money. You can take the taxpayer money, go and play around with it because, we think that you're going to be good with it, better than the stupid peons below us. You go and play around with it, and then we'll give them back a pittance of it after you played around with it and pocketed the spread. You want to know what fascism looks like? This is legit fascism. You have government control over the private sector, and you have the tax dollars being funneled to private entities through the mechanism and enforcement and coercion of the government. It is starting to rain. I really need to go in right now. Still raining, but I don't care. We're just going to keep being here. You want to sit here and chill with me in the rain? Let's sit here and chill with the rain. So the reality is that a lot of people would say at this point, hey, this does not create, for instance, a central bank digital currency, a CBDC. Trump has already talked about that's not going to happen here. He's issued an executive order. This couldn't possibly use for that Patriot Nurse. Why are you being reactionary, Patriot Nurse? Why are you being unnecessarily explosive? Well, the reality is that those executive orders, they weren't constitutional because it's not within the purview of the President of the United States to control the currency. According to the Constitution, that power lies with Congress. Now, granted, they ceded it with the Federal Reserve Act and the creation of our central bank, but nonetheless, the President doesn't have the authority to do that. The other thing is that this potentially creates the infrastructure for surveillance from the time that child is born with money that can be tracked. I decided to have sense enough to come in out of the rain to continue this one. The problem is that this is a centralized control of money that is A, being taken from the taxpayer, B, under the guise of it's for the children, and C, with the stamp of your child or your grandchild's name on it. And the bizarre thing is that, we don't need more printing of money. We don't need more gifts of free money. Free money creates worth less money. And the problem here with creating these centralized nexus, the centralized grid of money automatically given to your child. There are no free lunches in this world. And free money always comes with strings attached. Have you experienced that in your own life? Whether it was interpersonally or whether you experience this with government loans or something like that? No, the piper always gets paid. And in this case, it is using the guise of your child having perceived benefit, but really the one who benefits from it is Wall Street and these banksters. Furthermore, the Treasury is de facto creating a database with your child in it. You can make the argument that, well, they already have all that information with Social Security or whatever. The federal government's not supposed to have this type of oversight on people, friends. It gets a problem, and just saying, oh, well, it's more of the same is not the solution to get more freedom. That's how you get more slavery. That's how you get more change, is to sit by and do nothing. Oh, good, it stopped raining. Let's go talk some more in the non-rainy backyard. Oh, good. I totally just sat down on a wet chair. That's how much I love you guys. Let's talk about the cost here associated with this. It's adding, however many babies are born, $1,000. So over the course of the next 4 years, roughly $15 billion? To an existing $39.5 trillion, almost 40, probably by the time that you see this video, maybe even more. By the time that this trickles up, this is going to increase the debt. This is going to make it worse for your children. Already, as it sits, there's over $100,000 debt burden per person in the United States, over $300,000 per taxpayer. So is $1,000 for your kid really going to help them at all? The answer is no. But who is going to be benefited by it? The banksters who get to pocket the spread by you giving them free money courtesy of the tax system. And here's really where it gets to you. Got some fun math here for you because I'm a believer in math. It's a thing. Most people don't do it anymore, particularly if it flies in the face of their expectations. The heavens above say, do the math. The Urban Institute estimates that $1,000 may grow to maybe $3,000 by age of 18, assuming a 6% annual return. That doesn't hold a candle to the inflation we've seen lately, which is quite insufficient when you consider overall what a family could use that for in the meantime. So, to be clear, this has no realized benefit for anyone, especially when faced with inflation. So why do it? Why do it? Who benefits? Key bono. Leave me a comment below. Who do you think is benefiting from this? So what's the action point here? Definitely call your senators and urge them to not pass this bill. We don't need more laws governing our lives. We need less laws, more freedom, more of our money, lower taxes, and quit giving out money with these checks. I don't care whose name is on it. Free money from the government is never free. It comes at a cost to you and me. From a privacy standpoint, if you're a parent or grandparent, you should be advocating for your child's privacy and their sovereignty, certainly their financial sovereignty. And every little bit of free money that they get decreases their financial sovereignty because there's always strings attached when it comes from the government. So could these Trump newborn accounts be the precursor for a CBDC or some type of control grid? They possibly could. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But what I am sure is that the setup right now is not good. And even though there's an executive order that Trump has released to effectively combat and forestall a CBDC, any executive order that has been written by a sitting president can be undone by the next president. So even if you trust President Trump, the next one's what you got to think about, and the one after that. And let's not be so myopic that we think that the people coming in after us are going to have a better idea of what it means to be free than people in previous generations. It doesn't happen. Oftentimes, when we are put in situations and given governments, it is our duty to stand against things. Now, you can stand with people when they're doing the right thing. It is not a good and righteous thing to tax people, to take their money away, and to use their children as a vehicle to launder money to Wall Street. That is evil. That is wicked. We should call a spade a spade. I'm sure I ruffled some tail feathers with this video, but that is kind of what I do. I hope it was helpful for y'all. Y'all, if you did get value from this, and if it caused you to think, please share it with a friend. Share it with one person who you know would be benefited from it, even if it might make them a little bit upset with you. You can talk about these things around the table too, friends. Have these conversations. Like, this is what we are supposed to do in a republic. We are supposed to disagree kindly, respectfully, if at all possible. And sometimes it isn't possible to be kind and respectful. And that's how our country was born. We are a nation of armed rebellion. And that means that the leaders at the time didn't do everything right. And there were people of conscience who stood up and said, no, it's not cool for you to take money and send it to the East India Company. Vanguard, BlackRock. Have these conversations. Disagree kindly but respectfully. And if you're going to disagree with someone, be sure that you have a salient point to back it up. I can't tell you how often, I take flack for things online here. People saying like vicious and hateful things for me. Like, people are people. I know they usually got stuff going on in their own lives, and I really try and not focus on that. The reality is, if you're going to criticize somebody's position, then you should go after that position itself and offer counterpoints instead of, you're a piece of crap, or you should stick to nursing, or whatever. Friends, the founding fathers were tradesmen. The founding fathers were farmers. And that didn't stop them from having a good understanding of civics and history, moreover, and economics. Really, all history is just the recounting of economics and of cycles of human nature. You don't have to be someone with a bunch of letters after your name to understand these things. A nurse like me can understand these things if you understand history and if you're willing to continue learning. The smartest people that I know barely had a high school diploma. They had more street smarts and more civic understanding. By the way, most of our founding fathers were self-taught and school-learned, and they didn't need any approval or like pieces of paper to tell them that they understood things, and yet they built one of the best governments that the world has ever known. And they wrote a constitution that has become the blueprint for the freedom of mankind. I hope the video was helpful for y'all. Have a very blessed week. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see y'all later.